Look at that. There's a Mr. Salty plush. He's got a little Velcro to keep his hands together. He's got his little sailor outfit, Nabisco on the hat, and then it's official. He is Mr. Salty. This is the ad that they put out to announce Mr. Salty, a brand new type of pretzel, a new name for an old salt. Here is the earliest printed reference I can find to Mr. Salty. So I can't find a debut date, but this is from December of 1967. They were advertising that you could get Mr. Salty pretzels, which were the pretzel-shaped ones, or pretzel sticks. You get them three for $1. Originally, there were 3 styles. There was the very thin, which is the traditional pretzel style. Then there was the 3-ring, which is those smaller mini ones. And then there were the Dutch pretzels, which are those big ones that you'd kind of gnaw away on. Here is an ad from 1970. The Acme was selling Mr. Salty pretzels alongside Calcan, dog food of choice of Doc Brown's dog Einstein. That's the one that... Also, Bird's Eye frozen tasty fries and Maxim freeze-dried coffee. By 1984, there were 10 different varieties. You could get rods, you could get sticks, you could get regular pretzels, you could get buttered pretzels, you could get nuggets, you could get logs, you could get minis, you could get the mini mix, which was multiple types of minis. You could get rings. Mr. Salty was running the gamut of pretzels. Here's the package for Mr. Salty. You can see the mascots right on there. Also, it says Verithin pretzel sticks. Now, Verithin was a Nabisco brand prior to Mr. Salty, and Mr. Salty kind of took it over. He also added more salt. Here's an ad for Verithins that predates Mr. Salty, and they're showing you a lot of ways that you could eat your pretzels. You could eat them with ice cream. You could have them with a glass of tomato juice, which sounds delightful. Here's a 1982 ad, and you can see there, you can save 40 cents on a bunch of different snacks, including Mr. Salty. You also have potato chipsters. Look at Mr. Salty, always hanging out with chipsters. The year was 1984, and if you wanted to have a fantastic July 4th, you needed Mr. Salty. You also needed a can of Campbell's old-fashioned beans and a 2-liter bottle of Tab. Now, around this time, there were several Mr. mascots. Of course, you had Mr. Salty. When you went in the bathtub, you had Mr. Bubble. When you had to clean up, Mr. Clean. If you want to be classy, you had Mr. Peanut. And then if you were a weirdo who liked to squeeze toilet paper, Mr. Whipple. Here's another ad. Nabisco was promoting Mr. Salty, again, along with other things. They've got cheese nips, they've got tidbits, and they've got doodads. All right, I want to show you some of the Mr. Salty merch you could get in addition to the Mr. Salty plush. There was a Mr. Salty hat you could walk around wearing. Here's an ad for a couple different things you were able to send away for. A Mr. Salty beach ball, which sounds great. And then you see this bag, the Mr. Salty snack sack. And this was a bag that you could use as a pillow. Here's a look at the snack sack. I love these. Mr. Salty puffy stickers. Look at the Mr. Salty. These were the greatest stickers ever. The only problem was you'd put them somewhere, then you'd peel them off later. You want to put them someplace else. They wouldn't restick. But these are great. You got an Oreo there as well. And the Charleston Chew. That's because Nabisco owned everything. If you're having a fancy dinner party and you've got Mr. Salty out for your guests, you need some Mr. Salty napkins. Now, Mr. Salty is from Nabisco. Nabisco was started as the National Biscuit Company in 1898. This is Nabisco's factory in Chicago, and it is the largest bakery anywhere in the world. Nabisco started as the merger of 3 other companies. You had the Pearson & Son Bakery, the American Biscuit and Manufacturing Company, and the New York Biscuit Company. In 1981, Nabisco merged with another powerhouse called Standard Brands. Standard Brands had a number of different items, including Royal Baking Powder. Then in 1985, Nabisco merges with R.J. Reynolds Tobacco Company to form RJR Nabisco. More doctors smoke Camel than any other cigarette. Then in the year 2000, the Philip Morris Company, another cigarette company, purchases the RJR Nabisco Company, and they merge it with Kraft. And then in 2011, Kraft becomes Mondelez International, and they own everything. Mr. Salty had a lot of cool commercials.
Mr. Salty is a pretzel, crunchy to eat. He's got fresh, light taste you just can't beat. Gonna tell you why he's so special. Mr. Salty is a crispier pretzel. Eat 'em anytime. Pretzels are fun. Get Mr. Salty, a crispier one. Pretzels that are crispier are best to munch. Mr. Salty has a snack, goes crunch, crunch, crunch.
Mr. Salty, a crispier pretzel by Nabisco.
What is the well-dressed bachelor wearing? A Mr. Salty tie. Look at that, custom made for a friend of Mr. Salty. There's an episode of Seinfeld where George eats Mr. Salty pretzels. Now, this is not the one where Kramer's in the Woody Allen movie and they're all saying, these pretzels are making me thirsty, although these pretzels would make you thirsty. Now, in the 90s, a lot of companies were trying to hide from their more delicious names. Kentucky Fried Chicken became KFC. Sugar Smacks and Super Sugar Crisp became Honey Smacks and Golden Crisp. And it looked like the world may not need a Mr. Salty. Here's a 1992 ad for Mr. Salty, and in this, they mention the 200th anniversary of the company, but they're basing it on the 1792 origin of the Pearson & Sons Bakery Company, not Nabisco. But there you go, 200 years. At some point, they were quietly discontinued. Here's an article from the year 2000. Somebody had written into a newspaper, said, hey, what happened to Mr. Salty? They said, hey, we contacted the cigarette company that owns him, and they said, Mr. Salty's gone. By the way, if you enjoy my videos, please be like the Fonz, give it a thumbs up, and that way YouTube sees your thumbs up and they will share it with another person because of that. And if that person gives it a thumbs up, then they share it with another and another, and I truly would appreciate it. So please click that thumbs up icon. In the years since, Mr. Salty has returned in several forms. You could get them in these 100 calorie packs of chocolate covered pretzels. Can I offer you a chocolate covered pretzel? This one's currently on the market, so if you want some Mr. Salty in your life, there he is, and there's his face right on the package. These are those ones where you dip them and you eat them and you put them in the cheese. Here are some props that people would have had on the float last year, 2023, in the Mardi Gras parade when Mr. Salty made a triumphant return.
Salty is a sailor nickname made of pretzels, and he wears Nabisco hat and a white tie. Mr. Salty was discontinued in the 1990s, but Mr. Peanut is
I was going to ask. I'm looking for Mr. Salty. Oh, okay. I don't remember Mr. Salty too much, honestly.
I love Mr. Salty. I'm glad Mr. Salty's still out there salting things up. He loves the sea. He loves chipsters. If you like Misters, I'm going to put a video up here about Mr. Clean, who is better known in some circles as Meister Proper. And over here is going to be the video that YouTube says is best for you. You can choose either one, but either way, please come back tomorrow at 2 o'clock because we're going to have a brand new video and you're going to love it. I promise. I'll see you tomorrow at 2 o'clock.